Hi everyone. This is the show and tell about cutting things. You all know how to cut things. You've got scissors and you learned early on about that. Well, that is shearing, and that's one important way of cutting. We're going to look at some other ways, some chip removal processes, but we do shearing like that with metals also. Good old-fashioned tin snips do a pretty good job on a little piece of brass. Considered a little more modern, aviation snips are pretty handy. They can do the same thing, and you can cut a little bit better curves sometimes with the aviation snips. But if you're going to do it by hand, I would consider this. I may end up doing a little thing that I forgot, and if I do, I'll do, there's a few other ways you can shear by hand. But when we're really talking about chip removal, we're talking about sawing. And I'll start with some wood saws. And this is a standard wood saw. It's a standard crosscut saw. I don't think you can see the teeth very well, but they're actually little knife points. So it is made for cutting a piece of wood in this direction. If it was a rip saw where the teeth would be little chisels, it would be made for cutting the wood with the grain. This little slot is the kerf. I defined that in the PowerPoints, and that's so that when you put your saw in here, if you start sawing and you didn't have the teeth spread out a little bit, then the wood would spring back and catch the main part of the blade, and you'd have a problem. Now you can see with this blade, it's pretty flimsy. Another type of wood saw is a back saw, which has a big reinforcing bar up here, and it don't bend at all. So if you're going to make a long cut in a piece of wood and you don't want it to move, back saw is what you'd want to use it for. Now, there's also ways to cut metal by hand. Typically it's a hacksaw, and you've seen a video on how to do it, and you put it in and then you clamp this in. I'm not doing this where I have a vise handy, so but when you're doing it, it is proper procedure to hold both ends and swing it back and forth across the material that you're cutting, putting a little pressure. This particular blade, again, you can't see it very well, but it has a wave set, so the teeth kind of go like a sine wave, a little bit this way, and then go back this way, and then go back this way. The first handsaw had a straight set. One tooth goes that way, another tooth goes that way, and that way, and that way. And the back saw actually has a raker set. One goes this way, one goes straight, one goes that way. Okay, now that's all well and good. Now we're getting into some chip removal. And you noticed in the videos the chip removal is the same with any of the other, the diagrams where it's cut is all pretty much the same. Well, this obviously is a circular saw. It is one gnarly circular saw. I actually don't know where this came from, but I can't imagine the spindle that holds this puppy. But it has, again, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but these teeth actually are little carbide inserts. They're actually welded to the tip, little pieces of carbide, and so this would really be for heavy-duty cutting of wood, and it's pretty serious. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I wish I could get an answer from you, but I know I can't. What does this and this have in common? Well, they're both bandsaw blades, or at least this is a section of a bandsaw blade. This is a section of a bandsaw blade from one of the lumber mills, probably Sierra Pacific's lumber mill up in Sacramento. And this was cut out of a piece that probably, the blade itself was probably 50 yards long, because it goes through a huge area in these giant industrial sawmills, and this is the kind of bandsaw that cuts up your 2x4s. Imagine this running and sawing giant pieces of, the giant 8-foot diameter pieces of timber that are brought in. This is also a bandsaw blade. I'm not going to undo it, because if I do, it's going to end up going outside of the screen and you won't be able to see much. Or maybe I will. Maybe I'll push back and maybe it'll pop out. But it is for metalworking, and it you can see that it's one continuous blade. You heard that. That's actually proper technique. Just throw it out and let it go. And like I say, oh, now we can't see it. Let's see if zooming back out will give me enough room to see it. Now you can see it, but it's kind of lost. This blade would go in a bandsaw and it would spin around, and you would be able to take your wood or metal. And this is one of the main ways of cutting metal is with a bandsaw. And it's how you would actually cut that. You can't, I don't know how close we can get to the understanding the blade, but this has a straight set. And you fold it back up by twisting it around like this, and if it gets away from me, it will break the camera, so I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, I believe that is the show and tell for sawing.